During the G20 summit held in New Delhi, was recently completed, a significant development unfolded as the United States, India, Saudi Arabia, the United Arab Emirates, France, Germany, Italy, and the EU, European Union, introduced the India, Middle East, Europe corridor, known as the IMEC, IMEC. The IMEC represents a multi-mode transit corridor spanning over 3,000 miles, and it consists of two corridors. The Eastern corridor links India to the Arabian Gulf, while the Northern corridor connects the Arabian Gulf to Europe. Upon its completion, as outlined in a White House Memorandum of Understanding, this connectivity project will establish a dependable and cost-effective cross-border ship-to-rail transit network. It will complement existing maritime and road transport routes, facilitating the seamless movement of goods and services between India, the UAE, Saudi Arabia, Jordan, Israel, and Europe.
I think it needs a cooler name like Belt and Road has. Not that that's a cool name, but this is clearly an effort to compete with China's Belt and Road Initiative. And congrats to all the participants here, because everyone's going to win with this going in. This follows the Biden administration's interest in making investments like this, especially in this region. It's taken a while to sort of get going, but this is basically the U.S. Belt and Road. So maybe they call it that, although that's not great branding. But this built on a theme too. So I'm glad you chose this one, because, this is more of Saudi Arabia as being not just Saudi Arabia, because this goes from India to Europe. So it's, many countries are involved here, but Saudi Arabia is right in the middle of it. And so that's sort of a theme we've had on the show, Richard, recently, is Saudi Arabia as a nexus point. And it's always been that way, as you pointed out last week, but it's a focus now. And there's, more energy in that. And then just last thing I want to add to this, big win for the US-Saudi relationship, which increasingly is building on these commercial level wins and our interest base between the two parties. So we, the hosts of this show, love seeing that.
And that's spot on, and that's the beauty of this. And the parallels to the Belt and Road BRI, Belt and Road Initiative, is fair enough. But we've talked for some time on the 960, basically since its inception, about U.S. needing to broaden its tools in engaging with the region, and it can't just all be political and security and that sort of thing. And this is where China has made its hay in the region with economic investment, and that's one reason. Obviously, China is an important destination for energy exports and that sort of thing. But India, for Saudi Arabia, is its second largest trading partner. The beauty of IMEC. And I could live with. Maybe I can get used to IMEC.
Is fine. Yeah, now that you say it like that, I just needed you to say it. Yeah. There you
go. Okay. It places Saudi Arabia right at the middle. Right where it sees itself. Saudi Arabia sees itself as a nexus between Europe, Africa, and Asia. And it recognizes, it empowers India in a big way. It also, as opposed to the BRI, which has some onerous aspects to it, especially in terms of lending and debt and that sort of thing, a lot of countries have gotten into trouble. As a matter of fact, Italy recently said, we want nothing to do with the BRI. We're stepping away from it. The IMEC is going to give autonomy to participating countries to pursue their interest. I mean, basically, they have their own sovereignty. They want to get involved because they want to get involved. But it meets these countries, and let's talk specifically about Saudi Arabia, exactly where it wants to be, which is, impacting its geostrategic position in terms of trade and commerce, and, improving logistics costs. This will have so many knock-on effects. The main memorandum didn't mention that sort of a side objective of this is an agreement between the U.S. and Saudi to develop transit corridors that will facilitate transportation of renewable electricity, clean hydrogen. So basically transmission cables and gas pipelines. So this is not just sort of a logistics move freight transport thing. It's also a corridor for hydrogen and renewable electricity and these sorts of things, connecting grids. Again, all things are top priorities for Saudi Arabia. So this is a congrats to Joe Biden and congrats to this administration for meeting partners, commercial allies in some ways, key strategic players, meeting them where they are. Mm-hmm. And coming forward with things that are really attractive to them on their merits alone. They're not doing it because it helps their security situation. They're not doing it because they were compelled to by the U.S. They're doing it because, hey, this is a deal I want to get in on. Let's work this with Saudi Arabia and the U.S. And then when you throw in the fact, and this is, again, congrats to Joe Biden and the administration, it includes, UAE, France, Germany, Italy, and the EU, and obviously India. I mean, this is a big, big deal. Very exciting.
This is a big deal. It should have been a one big thing for either of us. We just knew we were going to talk about it, but this is such a huge deal. And what's really cool is you kind of look at this map and from wherever the satellite would be looking down and seeing all these countries, 30,000 feet, more than that, from space. The view from space on this is that there's so little resistance to this path. It's sea and then rail, and the rail goes through Saudi Arabia, which is flat. And for the most part, it doesn't have, if you look at Iran it would be impossible to do this through because it's all mountainous. It's like Colorado. Right. This is a path of very small or very minimal resistance that will absolutely open up the economies of the EU, Saudi Arabia, the UAE, and India, and others in this, and Pakistan, and others in this sort of, corridor. It is a big win for Joe Biden. You have to say that. And we also should talk about what probably everybody wanted to talk about when this was first starting to come out, which was the handshake between the Crown Prince and Joe Biden. It was good to see that. And it was good to see Modi kind of come on over top of it. They got to kind of seal the deal there. I think that's a good move. Joe Biden kicked butt at the G20. Xi wasn't there, Putin wasn't there, but he came with a plan. Yep. And he, the thing that, Joe Biden does, the same thing with Ukraine, same thing with NATO. He insists that his administration go through the right channels and put in the groundwork, lay the groundwork, establish communications, set up these things up. So I know this has been talked about, and you work this back a little bit. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that's been happening in the region is there's been more diplomatic dialogue. Obviously, we see the Iran-Saudi, détente. In essence, you see Saudi Arabia reaching out to Turkey, and Syria's back in the Arab League. Any number of diplomatic things going on. You see the Abraham Accords, which have their issues, but this sort of came out of the I2U2, which is the India and Israel, U.S. UAE ongoing dialogue, So if you're talking, ideas are probably going to come up, mm-hmm. and some of them might be good, and some of them might, merit further exploration, and some of them might result in let's expand this and let's call it IMEC, and let's make it happen. So, this is the result of a lot of good things going on at the moment, and I'm really encouraged by the U.S.-Saudi dialogue because there's a lot of it, and it seems to be about things that really matter to both countries and aren't specific to defense or oil. Yes, times 100 to that point. We're talking about things that, they're talking about things that mean something, that are not just, ideas. These are real commercial things. These are real commercial opportunities. And they're going through with them. They're not letting these, recent downturn in U.S.-Saudi relations at the beginning of the Biden administration just set the tone for the rest of the administration. They're just going forward with it. And there's a lot we could get into. And we are going to be talking about this a lot more, I'm sure. But, I just looking at this map and looking at sort of how people are calling it the new spice route, which I think is probably not the best. Do you know why?
Is Alula on it?
Well, there's a frankincense stop. No, but it is cool. So it's interesting that Italy did not want to be a part of this. I know there was a massive Saudi trade delegation in Italy last week. And
well, I think they're thrown in with the EU but Italy didn't want to be part of the BRI.
Okay. Oh, a part of the BRI, excuse me. Okay.
Yeah. Italy wants out of the BRI, any commitments that were made by previously.
So this map, though, appears to go around Italy, unless no, it has a stop in Italy and goes to France. Okay, so that's why I was confused. I was like, well, why don't they want to be a part of this? It's closer, and but who knows? But anyway, really, really good one. Huge story. I'm sure we'll get more and more on it. I read the MOU that came out, and it was, first of all, it was from the State Department, but the font was like Comic Sans or something like that. And I was like, this doesn't look, there's no signatures on it, but I was like, this looks fake, but I'm sure it wasn't. But there's going to be a lot of stuff that are formed around this, and we'll start to kind of explore it as it comes out. Sorry about the long yellow there, everybody, but this is a huge deal.
That was a good one. It's an important one.
Yellow number 2, Saudi Arabia is working on its own major commercial cruise line brand designed for those with, quote, Arabian preferences. AROYA Cruises sets sail next year with a single ship, formerly known as World Dream, the last remaining ship of the struggling Dream Cruises company. The PIF is the new owner of the ship, now known as Manera, for $300 million at an auction in December last year. It comes under management of the PIF's cruise company, Cruise Saudi, and acts as a showcase for its cruise liner brand AROYA.
This is cool. So cool. Saudi. I mean, I guess they acquired it in March, early this year. And they're going all in. They've hired a bunch of top flight companies to basically refit it, refurbish 98% of quote unquote guest facing venues in the ship. They've got one MJM Maritime for doing that. I guess MGM Maritime has worked on the Queen Mary 2, Virgin Voyages, Ritz-Carlton yacht collection. So it's going to be a luxury experience. But again, this is also happening so fast because we've covered on this show, we've covered in the Sustic Review, as Saudi Arabia has rolled up agreements with cruise lines, existing cruise lines, to come and work, the Red Sea ports, because they want to build that cruise industry because tourism is big, and that keeps rolling ahead. But here we're going to start our own cruise, and we have this, brand new vessel. They just keep rolling along, don't they?
Interesting too. They got they had, and I'm trying to find an updated percentage here, but they have an 8.2% stake in Carnival. And there was a report last year that they were in talks to acquire an arm from Carnival. Very, very interesting and a good story. It's interesting as well because cruise ships are not environmentally friendly at all. And I know the whole Red Sea area, that there's like a huge focus on that being part of the future. So it'll be interesting how those two things kind of come together. But for now, Saudi Arabia is in the cruise business, and that's super interesting. Also, you can get a cruise with an Arabian preference on only one cruise line now, and that's AROYA Cruises. So
AROYA.
AROYA, yeah. So interesting.
Yella number 3. The U.S. and Saudi Arabia are in talks to secure metals in Africa needed to help them with their energy transitions. This is reported by the Wall Street Journal. A state-backed Saudi venture would buy stakes in mining assets worth $15 billion in African countries such as the Democratic Republic of Congo, Guinea, and Namibia, which will permit U.S. companies to have rights to buy some of the production. Manera, we've just heard that, it's a common name and a popular name. The joint venture between PIF and Ma'aden is also concentrated on nickel, lithium, and iron ore. The White House is looking for financial support from other sovereign wealth funds in the area, but according to the Journal, negotiations with Saudi Arabia have advanced the most.
Manera the cruise or Manera the metals investor?
Well, we did a yell on Manera the metals because of their investment in Vale, the Brazilian mining company.
That's amazing. Yeah, I mean this is another U.S. Saudi cooperation outside of energy and security. It is sort of energy related, as a lot of these investments and acquisitions of nickel and lithium and cobalt are related to batteries. So for EV batteries, so it's sort of energy related. I mean, this is interesting. It seems mysterious to me. The U.S. didn't say anything about it. So we have this report, but it's kind of hard to read between the lines. This paragraph is interesting. This is from the Journal report. Saudi Arabia would likely have more flexibility to invest in countries where corruption is rampant, insulating U.S. companies from that risk. The kingdom is also less bound by ESG concerns that crimp other investors' ability to deploy capital there. I don't know if that's correct. That seemed like a stretch. That was in the Wall Street Journal piece. But anyway, so this is an interesting thing.
You often hear from our anti-corruption regulations are extremely tight. And this is not to suggest that others are lax, but U.S. companies regularly complain that they're put at a disadvantage because the reporting and the anti-corruption regulations are so tight. So I'm not sure how it applies, but that wouldn't be an unusual comment for U.S. companies working abroad. I mean, from their perspective, to the point where we really have, we can't just conduct normal business, much less, try to bribe or extort anything. We know we don't want to do that. But, it's so strict that we have difficulties with just a normal course of business that other countries can do. Mm-hmm. But again, on this, my instinct is to say, see IMEC. It's another example of U.S. and Saudi Arabia working together on common interests. And I love the last line of that is negotiations with Saudi Arabia have advanced the most. Awesome. Great. Let's move ahead. Let's keep talking about other things we can do together that are, economically advantageous to everybody involved.
And you saw this week, and we're not going to really get into it in full this week, another thing that we're going to table for a subsequent week, but the U.S. and Bahrain just signed a sort of security economic pact that some are saying could be more of a model for the region. It's interesting to know if that is coming for Saudi, but I'm just going to tease that and then not say anything else about it.
Well, next week, this is one of the great things about, the 966 and this topic of Saudi Arabia. I mean, there's a lot of places that just don't have this much going on. Yeah. I'm talking about Saudi Arabia and the region. I mean, our issue is not finding topics. Our issue was winnowing down topics.
Yeah. There's so much going on. And then, July and August, a little slower. But this was like this July and August this year in Saudi Arabia would have been the most busy months in previous years. And then things pick up in September now. It's just, it's bananas. So Yella number 4, Noor Riyadh, the largest light art festival in the world, will return for its 3rd edition in Riyadh, with the festival running from November 30th to December 16th, 2023, and the exhibition from November 30th, 2023 to March 2nd, 2024. The citywide festival will illuminate Riyadh with large-scale light art installations, building projections, performances, and more. Artworks will be displayed in public spaces across 5 hubs. Noor Riyadh 2023 will also feature over 500 community engagement programs for all visitors and families alike throughout the duration of the festival and the exhibition.
We threw this in there. I love light festivals. I don't care where it is. I love this. I mean,
you're a light
I
festival
want to
guy.
get there to see this. This is between December. It's from November to March. I want to see this just because and they do such a good job. I mean, when I went to see Boulevard World, which is a family entertainment theme park in Riyadh, it was brilliantly executed. And as I mentioned on the show before, I wasn't going there with family. I mean, kids would just love it. I was just going as some, tall white guy wandering around, some American who just has nothing else to do. I did, but I really wanted to see it. I was blown away. It was so well done, and it was so entertaining, and it's so delightful to walk around, and it was huge, expansive. I guess what I'm saying is the quality. The production quality of things going on in Saudi Arabia these days is really high. And I'm guessing this Noor Riyadh is going to be awesome.
I can't imagine it being shabby in any way because they are batting 1,000 when it comes to these sort of events and festivals. And we talked last week about tourism in Saudi Arabia. One of the things that is attractive for people to visit are these seasons, the Noor Riyadh, these festivals and for business travelers, conferences and other things going on, but you're going to be there for the, FII or whatever it's going to be. And then, there's these other things going around in Riyadh. You're like, hey, this is actually pretty amazing. So this is cool. And Turkey Al Sheikh doesn't do anything without going all the way with it. So, Riyadh season should be lit this year, and
as will Noor Riyadh,
and plop Noor Riyadh right on top of that.
Nice.
So, should be awesome.
Nice play on words.
Thank you. It's the coffee.
Yella number 5. Saudi Arabia's new Red Sea International Airport is on track to open this year, along with the first 3 resorts at the Red Sea destination. Saudi Arabian Airlines, Saudia, will become the first airline to operate out of the airport. Initially, the airport will open for domestic flights to and from Riyadh and later Jeddah, before expanding to handle international flights from 2024. Just 2 hotel operators are entrusted to introduce Saudi Arabia's, quote, untouched, unquote, Maldives rivaling Red Sea to international guests. And those 2 are Marriott and IHG. 3 of the planned 50 hotels at the 50 billion giga project opened this year, 2023, a St. Regis, a Ritz-Carlton Reserve from Marriott, and a Six Senses from, IHG. So that's the St. Regis and Ritz-Carlton from Marriott and Six Senses from IHG.
Yeah, those are the 2 hotel brands that I personally prefer, because there are so many of them all over the world that you can easily rack up points with them, and they offer really everything, up and down. But John Pagano from the Red Sea is just crushing it. I mean, he just every week is announcing some new thing and then following through on it. It is so cool to see this Red Sea thing take shape. Honestly, we've said it before on the show, but follow John Pagano on Twitter or LinkedIn, and it's just like you're getting a weekly briefing on how much stuff is going on there. I would like to go and see it. It's still too early, but it's too far of a drive from Jeddah. So it's cool that they'll have their airport out this year. But yeah, I mean, they're ahead of schedule with this, and we've talked about it on the show, but it's going to just be so awesome when this is all done, because this will actually be, again, bringing it back to tourism, this will be one of those places where if you're looking for, sandy beaches and relaxation and resort style vacationing, you're going to get it in Saudi Arabia for the first time. It's going to be here, which is amazing. True experience. Sure.
Yeah, truly different experience. Yeah, I have a little bit of John Pagano envy. I mean, he's living life. I mean, out there in these beautiful air, environments, I don't think I've ever seen him in a suit. I mean,
he's not a suit guy.
He's just casual and just digging life, going out and doing really neat stuff. Yeah, and I we follow the Red Sea project from the beginning, and it's hurtling to launch later this year. It's been fascinating to watch. It's sort of ahead of the curve of other giga projects in terms of at least getting out and being launched. So it's really fun to see it. And yes, I would love to go there. It would be so cool to go there.
Good on John Pagano. He is, of course, welcome to join us on the 966 at a time of his pleasure and leisure, which we imagine is either non-existent or quite minimal.
And as any viewer of the 966 knows, no shirt and coat tie required.
No, you don't have to dress up to be on the show. Not at all. That's not our thing. Yeah. Yella number 6. It went really fast this week, Richard. The company formed. Oh, this is a good one. I'm excited. Okay. The company formed.
You love these things.
Yes, we are back. The company formed to build the kilometer-high Jeddah Tower in the Saudi city of Jeddah has restarted work on the scheme and has drawn up a list of contractors who may complete the structure. A source close to the project told the news agency Mead that the scheme was, quote, back in full motion. We should note really quickly, Colin Foreman, editor of Mead, was on the program 2 weeks ago. Great conversation.
Really
it's
good.
Too bad that this didn't time up well. The Jeddah Economic Company is a consortium organized by Prince Al-Walid bin Talal, grandson of Abdulaziz Al Saud, the first king of Saudi Arabia. In 2014, his kingdom holding company convened a group of investors to build a tower more than a kilometer high. At the time, it was called the Kingdom Tower, which everybody knows is the name of the tower in Riyadh. Okay, this is awesome. Richard, kicking it over to you. What do you think?
I knew you'd be fired up about this. You love the big mega projects. I was laughing. What was it? Was it with Colin Foreman we were talking about? And your first question was, one of your questions was, what about the North Pole? Will the North Pole get built?
What do you
Which
know?
is
Yeah.
a huge
Give
tower
me
that's
that tower. Yeah.
perspective tower in Riyadh. Yeah, so I thought you'd get a kick out of this. This is pretty cool. I mean, it'd be fun to get it restarted, and it's sitting there. I guess it's a third done. Um, it's a who's who of contractors who are looking to bid on it. I mentioned the 14. So it'll be interesting to see how this plays out, and clearly, Al Walid, who was a primary in launching this, I think he's been in good graces anyway. But it's fun to see this back and going. So we'll watch it with interest. I know you'll watch it with great interest. You love these skyscrapers.
I do. And the new Mukaab and things like that. The reason why I like them is not because they make necessarily economic sense, although they often do, but because they then become iconic in a way that very casual observers will be touched by, because most people are not like following Saudi Arabia that closely. But if they know that the world's tallest building is there, that it goes on placemats that kids eat on. It just reaches so many different like places, and you're like, oh, the world's tallest building, yeah, it's in Jeddah. I don't know, it's like I don't know where that is, but it just things like this actually like have unbelievable reach. And you look at the Burj in Dubai, and I think people knew of Dubai before, and Dubai would pretty much be the same without it. But that is like the epicenter now of all that is going on in Dubai, in my opinion. I mean, the most expensive and coolest hotels and everything else are right kind of around the Burj. Would it be that way without the Burj? I don't know. But the Burj lights up on New Year's, and it's ultra soft power that just has immeasurable reach. And so, yeah, I love these things like that, because also they give you a reason to visit, and they're sites to see and to behold. I mean, Empire State Building and Sears Tower in Chicago. I mean, I don't know. You're right, though. It's a little bit irrational. I love things like this. I'm glad to see this restarted, too, because for 5 years, it's been inactive, and it sort of becomes the first thing that people reference when they're like, well, they're always talking about doing these things, but look at the Jeddah Tower, and it's like, that's, first of all, not really fair, because they are following through on virtually every single promise they've made. But yeah, I mean, this is going to be, and I mean, it will dominate the skyline in Jeddah. There's nothing even close to this. So yeah, I mean, it doesn't say, there's no timeline, I guess, 2014. So here we are, 10 years, I don't know how high up it's gone. It's been paused, but it's still, you can still see it. Anyway, I'm pumped about this. So looks cool.
I mean, the Burj is a great parallel. I mean, the Burj is, one of the largest tourism sites in the world. I mean, 17 million visitors a year. It generates roughly over 600 million each year in ticket sales. 600 million in ticket sales, just people to come and see the Burj, because it is a fascinating structure. It's really cool. I mean, your point is spot on. It is iconic. So it'll be fascinating if it gets built, because it will be a place on the map that people will know about. Mm-hmm. So I mean, it's exciting that it's restarted.
Yeah, this other comment to make about this. I love that the engineering becomes so complex that you need solutions that are then applied elsewhere around the world. So like for the Burj, I think it was really hard to get cement to get that high up that quickly. So you had to get innovative about what you would do with the cement, and how long it would cure, and all these other things. For the Kingdom Tower in Jeddah, I remember seeing that it's really difficult to have a building this tall without it just sinking into the water, and it's just sinking down like 10 feet every year, because it's so massive and it's sand all around it. So, if you want to get it done, call Bechtel. They'll do it for you. It won't be cheap. They're going to get the job done. So,
I mean, that's a good point. You do, it really stretches your thinking and your capacity in terms of engineering. And I guess the guys, the company that designed the Burj is the company that designed this tower. Mm-hmm. So they're back in, they're back on it. So exciting news. That's really cool.
It would be interesting to see if they will be talking to the media at any point, because I'm sure we could reach out to somebody from the Jeddah Economic Company and have a show totally dedicated to this, because I would be so stoked for that. But yeah, I mean,
if I'm the media advisor, having lain dormant for 5 years, I wouldn't be talking to anybody.
Nothing. Yeah. Just start building. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
That was a really great and fun episode, especially when we end with mega projects like that. Maybe we make that a theme, because that was awesome. Good on them for getting it restarted. Good on us for just being on quite the run here, Mr. Wilson. So well done to you. We will be back, of course, next week. And
this is a blast. I look forward to this every week. We prep every day, but I look forward to getting together and gabbing with you every week. And 9 times out of 10, we don't have all our guests are great. All our guests, we learn a lot. And this was another great one. Sometimes we don't have guests. It's just you and me. So the 9 times out of 10 isn't a commentary on the guest. 9 times out of 10 episodes when we have a guest, it's an added bonus that we get to educate ourselves even further.
That's the best thing about this. And I think a lot of the feedback we get is people that appreciate the fact that we're sort of just trying to understand it too. Like, people are there's no like expert, like for example, this is great. There's no expert on the Jeddah Tower. There's whoever is the CEO of the Jeddah Economic Company knows more than other people. Outside of that, we're kind of all just trying to figure it out. So that's what we're doing here. We're sort of talking things through. We're hypothesizing about things and trying to get to the bottom of it. And I think people like that journey. I don't know, whatever we're doing, people seem to be liking, so we're just going to keep doing it. So yeah, I completely agree.
In the last 2 weeks, I've had 2 Saudis who are profoundly knowledgeable. Saudis, middle-aged Saudis who have been around, pay attention, know a lot, plugged in. 2 of them have said, I learned things listening to your show, which is the highest compliment.
Absolutely. The highest compliment. And yeah, so we're here. We'll see you guys next week. Richard, thank you very much.
Thank you. You're the man.
You the man.